The storm raged outside the opulent walls of the Sterling mansion, thunder clapping like the wrath of forgotten gods, while inside the cries of three tiny infants pierced the night like shards of glass. It was past midnight on a relentless Friday in the heart of New York City, and the triplets Elias, Emilia, and Ezra had been wailing without pause for hours, their small faces flushed red, tiny fists clenched in futile protest against some unseen torment. The billionaire patriarch, Alexander Sterling, paced the marble-floored nursery, his usually impeccable suit rumpled, his steel-gray eyes shadowed with exhaustion and despair. Nannies had come and gone, bottles warmed and discarded, lullabies sung to no avail. The air was thick with the scent of baby powder and desperation, the dim glow of nightlights casting eerie shadows on the gilded cribs. Servants whispered in the hallways, fearing the worst: colic, illness, or perhaps the lingering grief of a household still mourning the loss of its matriarch. But as the clock struck 3, a figure emerged from the shadows of the servants' entrance. Amina Johnson, the quiet black maid who had only been with the family for a month. Her dark skin gleamed under the soft light, her uniform crisp despite the late hour, and in her eyes burned a quiet determination. Without a word, she approached the cribs, ignoring the billionaire's sharp glance. What she did next was unthinkable. She scooped all 3 babies into her arms at once, cradling them against her chest as if they were her own, and began to hum a soft, ancient melody from her ancestral roots in Senegal. A lullaby passed down through generations. The cries faltered, then softened, and for the first time that night, silence began to weave its fragile threads through the room. Alexander froze, his heart pounding not just from the ceaseless noise, but from the sheer audacity of this woman, a mere maid, stepping into the role no one else could fill. Who was she to touch his children so intimately? Yet, as the triplets' sobs turned to whimpers and then to peaceful breaths, he couldn't deny the miracle unfolding before him. Amina didn't stop. She swayed gently, her voice a warm river flowing through the cold mansion, carrying scents of distant spices and sun-baked earth in her song. The rain lashed against the windows, but inside, a tentative calm settled, broken only by the soft coos of the babies nestling into her warmth. Alexander watched, transfixed, as Amina's face softened with a tenderness that seemed to illuminate the room more than any chandelier ever could. She had crossed a line, one that separated servant from savior, and in that moment, the unthinkable became the undeniable, a bridge built from desperation to devotion. But this was no simple act of kindness. It was the spark that would ignite a firestorm of secrets, heartaches, and revelations in the Sterling household. As the night wore on, Alexander found himself drawn to the doorway, listening to Amina's voice weave magic into the air. He had built an empire on steel and strategy, amassing billions in tech innovations that connected the world. Yet here he was, disconnected from his own flesh and blood, the triplets, born prematurely just 6 months ago to his late wife Alana, who had succumbed to complications during delivery, were his last tether to love. Elena's death had left him a hollow shell, cold and commanding, ruling his domain with an iron fist that masked his misery. Hiring Amina had been an afterthought, recommended by an agency for her impeccable references as a cleaner and occasional caregiver. She was poor, a single mother scraping by in the city's underbelly. Her own daughter left with a neighbor while she worked nights. Yet in this moment, as the babies finally slept, Alexander felt a crack in his armor, a whisper of vulnerability he hadn't allowed since Elena's passing. The mansion itself seemed to exhale in relief, its grand halls echoing faintly with the dying storm. Crystal chandeliers hung like frozen stars above, and the scent of polished wood mingled with the faint lavender from the baby's blankets. Amina carefully placed the triplets back in their cribs, their chests rising and falling in unison. Tiny hands relaxed at last. She turned to leave, but Alexander's voice stopped her low, almost broken. How did you do that? He asked, his words hanging in the air like unspoken accusations. Amina met his gaze steadily, her brown eyes deep pools of empathy. Sometimes, Mr. Sterling, all they need is a mother's touch, she replied softly, her accent a gentle lilt that carried stories of faraway lands. He nodded, words failing him, and as she slipped back into the shadows, he sank into a chair, the weight of the night pressing down. Little did he know, this was only the beginning. Amina's unthinkable act would unravel threads connecting their lives in ways neither could imagine. As dawn crept through the curtains, painting the nursery in soft pinks and golds, Alexander reflected on the isolation of his wealth. His penthouse empire overlooked Central Park, a symbol of power, yet it felt like a gilded cage. The servants buzzed about their duties, but none dared approach the nursery now, whispers of Amina's magic spreading like wildfire. She, meanwhile, returned to her cramped apartment in Harlem before the sun fully rose, her body aching from the night's vigil, but her heart full. Her own daughter, Lila, just 4 years old, greeted her with sleepy hugs, unaware of the storm her mother had calmed miles away. Amina collapsed onto her worn couch, the sounds of the city waking around her honking taxis, distant sirens a stark contrast to the mansion's silence. She had done what needed to be done, but a nagging fear tugged at her. Had she overstepped? Would the billionaire see her as a threat? Or worse, dismiss her? Yet, deep down, she knew the triplets' cries had echoed her own past pains, and she couldn't have turned away. The day unfolded with Alexander summoning his team of pediatricians, demanding explanations for the night's chaos. Colic, they said, prescribing medications and routines. But he waved them off, his mind replaying Amina's lullaby. He found himself wandering the halls, catching glimpses of her dusting the library, her movements graceful and unassuming. "Thank you," he muttered when their paths crossed, the words foreign on his tongue. Amina smiled faintly. "Just doing my job, sir." But it was more than that, and they both knew it. As evening approached, the triplets stirred restlessly again, and Alexander felt a pang of dread. Would the cries return? He hesitated, then sent for Amina, his command laced with unspoken plea. She arrived, and once more her presence soothed the brewing storm. This pattern continued, night after night, drawing them closer in the quiet hours, conversations blooming in whispers. Alexander shared fragments of his grief over Elena, how her laughter had filled these halls. Amina listened, her own stories of loss, fleeing hardship in Africa, raising Lila alone after her husband's abandonment, slipping out like guarded treasures, weeks blurred into a fragile rhythm, the mansion's cold and elegance warming under Amina's influence. The triplets thrived, their giggles replacing cries, and Alexander found himself smiling for the first time in months. Yet tension simmered beneath. Other staff eyed Amina with jealousy, murmuring about favoritism, and Alexander wrestled with his growing admiration. Was it gratitude or something deeper? Amina, too, felt the pull, her heart fluttering at his rare vulnerabilities. But she reminded herself of the chasm between them, billionaire and Maid, worlds apart. One evening, as she rocked the triplets, Alexander joined her, his hand brushing hers accidentally, sending sparks through the air. "Stay," he whispered, "not just for the night, but perhaps for more." She nodded, the unthinkable act evolving into an unspoken bond, setting the stage for conflicts yet to come. In the heart of Manhattan's glittering skyline stood the Sterling Tower, a monolithic testament to Alexander Sterling's empire. The mansion atop it spanned the entire penthouse floor, a sprawling 10,000 square foot oasis of luxury amid the urban chaos below. Marble floors gleamed under recessed lighting, walls adorned with priceless art from Picasso to emerging African sculptors, ironic, given Alexander's detached appreciation for culture. The air carried a faint scent of fresh orchids, delivered weekly, mingling with the subtle hum of state-of-the-art climate control. Outside, the city pulsed with life taxis, honking like impatient geese, pedestrians weaving through rain-slicked streets, the distant rumble of subways vibrating the foundations. But inside, isolation reigned, a bubble of wealth that amplified every echo of loneliness. Alexander Sterling was the epitome of cold power, a 42-year-old tech mogul whose software innovations had revolutionized global communications, netting him billions, tall and broad-shouldered, with chiseled features and salt and pepper hair. He exuded authority in tailored suits that cost more than most people's annual salaries. Yet beneath the facade lay misery. Elena's death had shattered him, turning his once vibrant spirit into a fortress of grief. He barked orders at staff, buried himself in board meetings, and viewed emotions as weaknesses. The triplets were his Achilles heel, tiny reminders of what he'd lost. Elias, the eldest by minutes, with his father's intense gaze. Amelia, delicate and curious. Ezra, the quiet observer, born at just 28 weeks. They were miracles of modern medicine, but their fragility haunted Alexander, making him overprotective and distant. Contrasting this opulence was Amina Johnson, a 35-year-old single mother from Senegal, who had immigrated to the U.S. a decade ago, seeking better opportunities. Her skin was a rich mahogany, her hair often tied back in a practical scarf, revealing high cheekbones and eyes that sparkled with quiet resilience. She wore the standard maid's uniform, black dress with white apron, but carried herself with the dignity of royalty. Struggling to make ends meet, Amina juggled cleaning jobs, her wages barely covering rent for her one-bedroom apartment in Harlem. The neighborhood buzzed with vibrancy, street vendors hawking jerk chicken, children playing hopscotch on cracked sidewalks, the rhythmic beat of hip-hop from open windows. But poverty's grip was tight, leaky roofs, unreliable heat, and the constant worry for her daughter Lila, a bright-eyed girl with braids and boundless energy. Amina had left a life of hardship behind, her husband abandoning them after Lila's birth, forcing her to flee political unrest. Kind-hearted to a fault, she volunteered at community centers, sharing stories and meals, her laughter a balm for the weary. The contrast between Alexander's world and Amina's was stark, like diamonds against coal. While he dined on gourmet meals prepared by private chefs, lobster thermidor, truffle risotto, she survived on simple stews of rice and beans, flavored with memories of home. His days were filled with high-stakes negotiations in glass-walled offices overlooking the Hudson, hers with scrubbing floors and folding linens, her hands calloused from labor. Yet, fate had intertwined them when Amina applied for the maid position, her references glowing with praise for her reliability and warmth. Little did Alexander know, her unthinkable act that fateful night had bridged their divides, her lullaby not just calming the triplets, but stirring something in him. As weeks passed, the mansion's routine revealed more layers. Mornings brought the scent of fresh coffee brewing in the expansive kitchen, where Amina prepared bottles alongside the head chef. Henri, a gruff Frenchman who secretly admired her efficiency. "You have a way with those little ones," he'd grunt, passing her a croissant. Amina would smile, her voice soft. Children know when love is real. Alexander, overhearing from his study, felt a twinge love, a concept he'd buried. The nursery, with its soft pastels and plush toys, became a sanctuary where Amina spent more time, her presence requested implicitly. The triplets responded to her instantly. Elias would reach for her with chubby arms. Emilia coo at her songs. Ezra nestle quietly in her lap. Alexander watched from afar, his misery cracking as he saw joy in their eyes. But poverty's shadow loomed over Amina. Evenings, she'd rush home to Lila. The subway ride, a gauntlet of crowded cars smelling of sweat and fast food. Her apartment was a cozy chaos, colorful African fabrics draped over furniture, the air scented with incense and simmering soups. Lila's drawings covered the fridge, stick figures of Mommy the hero. Amina would tuck her in, whispering tales of Senegalese folklore, but worry gnawed at her bills piling up. Lila's school fees due. One night, after soothing the triplets, she confided in a phone call to her sister back home, her voice trembling. "I love those babies, but what if it's too much? I'm just the maid." Yet, duty called her back, the contrast fueling her empathy. Alexander's coldness thawed in subtle ways. During a rare dinner alone, filet mignon under candlelight, he summoned Amina for conversation. "Tell me about Senegal," he said, his tone commanding yet curious. She described sunsets over the Atlantic, markets bursting with colors and spices, the warmth of community. He listened, the room filled with the clink of silverware and her melodic accent, his powerful frame relaxing. "Sounds like freedom," he murmured. She nodded, eyes meeting his. "Wealth can't buy that." "Sir," the moment lingered, charged with unspoken connection, highlighting their worlds clash, his isolation in luxury, her struggles in solidarity. As bonds deepened, the setting expanded. Alexander took the triplets to Central Park one crisp afternoon, Amina accompanying as nanny, leaves crunching underfoot, the scent of roasted chestnuts in the air, children laughing on swings. Elias pointed at ducks. Emilia giggled at bubbles. Ezra watched birds. Alexander pushed the stroller, his misery easing as Amina shared laughs. "You're good with them," he admitted. "Better than I am." She touched his arm lightly. "You're their father. That's enough." The park's vibrancy mirrored Amina's spirit, contrasting the mansion's sterility, planting seeds of change. Yet, undercurrents stirred. Staff gossiped. The maid thinks she's family. Alexander's business rivals eyed vulnerabilities. Amina hid her exhaustion, her kindness a shield. The stage was set for conflict, their contrasting lives a powder keg waiting for a spark. Tensions simmered in the Sterling mansion like a pot on the verge of boiling over, the air thick with unspoken grievances and mounting pressures. Alexander's world of boardrooms and billion-dollar deals clashed violently with the domestic chaos, his cold demeanor cracking under the strain of fatherhood. The triplets, now 7 months old, had outgrown their initial fragility, but brought new challenges, teething pains that turned nights into battlegrounds of wails and fevers. Amina, elevated unofficially to nanny, bore the brunt, her days blending into endless cycles of care. But jealousy festered among the staff. The housekeeper, Mrs. Hargrove, a stern woman with pinched features, whispered accusations of favoritism. She's just a maid, not the lady of the house, she'd hissed to the gardeners, her words poison seeping through the halls. One evening, as rain pelted the windows like accusatory fingers, the conflict ignited. Alexander returned from a grueling merger negotiation, his suit soaked, temper frayed. The triplets were inconsolable, their cries echoing like sirens. Amina rocked them in the nursery, her lullaby strained from fatigue. "Shh, little ones, Mama Amina's here," she murmured, the endearment slipping out unconsciously. Alexander burst in, eyes blazing. "What did you call yourself?" he demanded, his voice a thunderclap. Amina froze, the baby startling into louder sobs. I didn't mean," she stammered, but he cut her off. "You're not their mother. Elena is gone, but you're not her replacement." His words hung heavy, laced with grief and injustice, misunderstanding her innocent slip as overreach. The room felt smaller, the scent of diaper cream and lavender cloying, lights flickering from the storm. Amina set the babies down gently, her hands trembling. "I know my place, Mr. Sterling, but these children need love, not just wealth." She turned to leave, but he grabbed her arm, not harshly, but desperately. "You think I don't know that I'm drowning here?" His admission cracked the air, suspense building as tears welled in his eyes. Amina pulled away, her kindness warring with hurt, then let someone help without pushing them away. She exited, leaving him alone with the cries. His misery amplified. The next days brought hardships. Alexander, racked with guilt, avoided Amina, burying himself in work. The staff's whispers grew louder. Mrs. Hargrove sabotaging subtly misplacing bottles, delaying laundry. Amina struggled silently, her poverty biting harder. A call from Lila's school about unpaid fees added weight. "Mommy, why can't I go on the field trip?" Lila asked over the phone, her voice small. Amina's heart broke, the contrast stark triplets in luxury, her daughter in want. Suspense mounted as Amina considered quitting, but the baby's dependence held her. Misunderstandings escalated. Alexander overheard staff gossip. "She's using the kids to get to his money." Enraged, he confronted Amina in the kitchen, the scent of baking bread ironic amid tension. "Is that true? Are you here for my fortune?" His accusation stung like a slap. Amina straightened, eyes flashing. "I've worked honestly my whole life. If you think so low of me, fire me." He hesitated, the room charged with unspoken attraction beneath anger. I don't know what to think anymore." She left, tears burning, injustice fueling her resolve. Injustices piled on. One night, Ezra spiked a fever, his cries weak and alarming. Amina rushed to the nursery, ignoring protocol, administering a cool cloth and calling the doctor. Alexander arrived, panicked. "What are you doing?" he barked. "Saving him," she retorted. Tension high as they waited for the physician. The doctor confirmed minor illness, praising Amina's quick action, but Alexander's fear turned to blame. "You should have woken me first." Amina bit back. "You were asleep." "Sir, children don't wait." The exchange left scars. Suspense lingering, would their bond survive? Amina's struggles deepened. Back in Harlem, her apartment flooded from the storm, water-soaking carpets, the smell of mildew pervasive. Lila clung to her. "I'm scared, Mommy." Amina comforted her, but exhaustion mounted. She confided in a friend over tea. The cafe's chatter a brief respite. "He's cold, but there's good in him, yet it hurts." Her friend advised caution. "Don't lose yourself in his world." Alexander's misery peaked in isolation. In his study, surrounded by screens flickering stock tickers, he stared at Elena's photo, the scent of her perfume faint on a scarf. "What would you do?" he whispered. A call from his lawyer about a rival's sabotage added pressure. His empire threatened. He lashed out at staff, but spared Amina. His conflict internal. Brief suspense came in stolen moments. One dawn, as Amina fed the triplets, Alexander entered softly. "I'm sorry," Otis said, voice low. She nodded, but walls remained. "Words are easy, sir." Their eyes met, electricity sparking. But she turned away. The mansion's grandeur felt oppressive, hardships weaving a web of tension, setting the stage for twists. As the autumn leaves turned fiery reds and golds outside the mansion's panoramic windows, secrets began to unravel like threads pulled from a tapestry, each twist shocking the fragile equilibrium. Amina had settled into a wary routine, her kindness undimmed despite the conflicts. But hidden truths lurked in the shadows, ready to upend everything. The first twist came unexpectedly during a routine medical checkup for the triplets. The pediatrician, Dr. Ellis, reviewed their files in the sunlit exam room, the scent of antiseptic sharp in the air. Alexander paced, Amina holding Amelia gently. "Mr. Sterling," the doctor said hesitantly, "there's something irregular in the birth records. The DNA markers suggest the triplets aren't fully yours biologically." The words landed like a bombshell, suspense hanging thick. Alexander's face paled, his powerful frame slumping. "What do you mean?" he demanded. Dr. Ellis explained Elena had undergone IVF, but a mix-up at the clinic, perhaps intentional, meant the sperm used wasn't Alexander's. A rival, jealous of his success, had orchestrated a betrayal through a bribed technician. Elena, unaware, had carried the pregnancy to term. Alexander stormed out, rage boiling, but the revelation cracked his cold exterior further. "Who are they, then?" he whispered later to Amina in the nursery, the baby's innocent gurgles contrasting the turmoil. She placed a hand on his shoulder. "They're yours in every way that matters," but doubt seeded, twisting his misery into paranoia. The second twist struck closer to home. Amina received a letter from Senegal, delivered to her Harlem apartment amid the chaos of dripping faucets and Lila's homework scattered on the table. The envelope, worn and stamped with foreign postmarks, contained news from her sister Amina's ex-husband, thought long gone, was alive and claiming rights to Lila, demanding custody in a bid for her American citizenship. The betrayal stung. Amina had fled his abuse, building a new life. "He can't take her," she sobbed to herself, the room spinning with fear. Suspense built as she hid this from Alexander, her struggles intensifying. One night, after calming the triplets with her lullaby, the scent of chamomile tea soothing the weight overwhelmed her. Alexander found her crying in the kitchen. "What's wrong?" he asked, his voice unusually gentle. She confessed partially, family troubles back home. He offered help, but she refused, pride intact. Unbeknownst to her, he began investigating quietly, his resources uncovering the ex-husband's scheme, a shocking act of sacrifice on his part, twisting their dynamic. The third twist revealed a hidden connection, betraying trusts in unforeseen ways. During a charity gala, at the mansion, crystal glasses clinking, guests in tuxedos and gowns mingling under chandeliers. Amina served discreetly, her uniform a stark contrast to the opulence. Overhearing conversations, she learned Alexander's empire was built partly on acquisitions that displaced communities in Africa, including her village's land for mining tech components. The betrayal hit hard was his wealth stained with her people's suffering, confronting him in his study later, the air heavy with cigar smoke. She accused, "You profited from our pain." Alexander, stunned, revealed his own secret. Elena had pushed those deals, and he'd regretted them, secretly funding reparations. "I was blind," he admitted, tears falling. The twist deepened their bond, sacrifices emerging. Amina had unknowingly cared for children of a man tied to her past losses. These revelations maintained interest, each peeling layers. Alexander's mental state frayed, nights spent poring over documents, the triplets' cries triggering flashbacks. Amina, torn between loyalty and resentment, sacrificed sleep to support him, her lullabies now soothing him too. "Why do you stay?" he asked one midnight, the mansion silent save for rain. "Because everyone deserves redemption," she replied, their hands touching, sparks igniting romance amid chaos. Suspense peaked with a final layer. A DNA test Alexander ordered secretly on the triplets revealed a match not to him, but distantly to Amina, through ancestral lines, suggesting Elena's IVF donor was from similar Senegalese roots. The shock the babies shared ethnic heritage with Amina, explaining their instant bond. "They're like my own," she whispered, betrayal turning to fate. Alexander grappled. Does this change everything? Twists intertwined, setting up the climax. Hearts exposed in the immersive storm. The climax erupted on a blustery winter evening, emotions cresting like waves, crashing against the mansion's unyielding facade. Snowflakes swirled outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, blanketing Central Park in white, while inside, the air crackled with unspoken fears and raw vulnerabilities. Alexander, his misery reaching a breaking point from the twists, suffered a mental breakdown in his study. Surrounded by scattered papers, DNA reports, legal threats from rivals, and photos of Elena, the scent of aged whiskey heavy as he poured glass after glass. "It's all falling apart," he muttered, his voice breaking, powerful hands trembling. The triplets, sensing the turmoil, began crying in the nursery down the hall, their wails amplifying his despair. Amina, finishing her shift, heard the chaos rushing in. She found Alexander slumped against his desk, tears streaming down his chiseled face. "Mr. Sterling Alexander," she corrected softly, kneeling beside him. "Talk to me." He looked up, eyes haunted. "Everything I built, it's on lies. The baby aren't mine. Elena betrayed me unknowingly, and now my empire's crumbling." His breakdown escalated, sobs racking his body, the room's dim lamplight casting long shadows that mirrored his inner darkness. Suspense thickened as he confessed deeper thoughts of ending it all. The weight too much. "I can't be their father. I'm broken." In that moment, a child in danger thrust the emotional turning point. Amelia's cries turned frantic, choking gasps echoing through the baby monitor. Amina bolted to the nursery, heart pounding, the cold floor chilling her feet. Amelia had tangled in her blanket, her tiny face turning blue from restricted breathing. "No, no," Amina cried, unwrapping her swiftly, performing gentle CPR learned from community classes. Alexander stumbled in, horror-struck, his breakdown pausing in the face of crisis. "Save her," he pleaded, voice raw with terror. Amina worked frantically, her hands steady despite fear, cooing soothing words. Breathe, little one. Breathe for Mama. Amelia gasped, color returning, her cries resuming weakly. The drama peaked as Amina sacrificed herself metaphorically and literally. Holding Amelia close, she turned to Alexander. These children need you. Flaws and all, I've given everything my heart. But if you fall, they fall. Tears flowed as she revealed her own pain. My ex is coming for Lila. I might lose her, but I won't let you lose them. Alexander, shattered, reached for her, pulling her into an embrace with the babies between. I can't do this without you, he admitted, his cold shell crumbling in emotional release. The room filled with their mingled sobs, the scent of baby shampoo and whiskey blending oddly, sensory details heightening the immersion. Suspense held as Alexander's breakdown turned cathartic. I've been so blind, pushing away love, he whispered, his lips brushing her forehead. Amina pulled back slightly, eyes locking. Love isn't wealth or blood, it's choice. Their first kiss followed, tentative and charged, the triplets quieting as if sensing peace. But danger lingered. A call came. Alexander's rival had launched a cyber attack on his company, threatening collapse. We fight together, Amina declared, her kindness forging strength. The turning point solidified with Amina's ultimate sacrifice. She offered to testify against her ex-husband using Alexander's lawyers, risking deportation if it backfired. For Lila, she said, voice trembling. Alexander, reformed in the fire, vowed protection. The climax crested in this emotional whirlwind, hearts laid bare, paving redemption's path. In the aftermath of the storm, both literal and metaphorical, the Sterling mansion transformed into a haven of warmth and renewal, the once cold halls echoing with laughter instead of cries. Spring arrived, blossoms dotting Central Park, visible from the windows, their sweet scent wafting in on breezes. Alexander emerged from his breakdown, a changed man, his power tempered by humility. He softened, attending therapy sessions in a sunlit office, sharing vulnerabilities with a counselor whose words healed like balm. I was miserable because I feared love, he admitted, growth evident in his daily interactions. Amina was honored, no longer just the maid, but a cherished partner. Alexander promoted her officially to family caregiver, but more profoundly, he courted her with romantic gestures, picnics in the park, where the triplets played on blankets, the air filled with giggles and the taste of fresh strawberries. You saved us, he told her one evening, under twinkling lights in the garden, the scent of jasmine enveloping them. She smiled, her hand in his. We saved each other. Their love blossomed, crossing divides of wealth and race, a testament to humanity's resilience. The family reunited in beautiful ways. Alexander embraced the triplets fully. Blood irrelevant, he played with them in the nursery, building blocks, tumbling with joyous crashes. Daddy's here, he'd say, his voice warm. Legal battles resolved using his resources. He thwarted Amina's ex-husband, securing custody for Lila, who moved into the mansion. The little girl bonded with the triplets. Their playtime, a symphony of innocence, Lila teaching them songs, the air alive with children's chatter. Character growth shone brightly. Alexander divested from unethical ventures, funding African communities, including Amina's village, with reparations that built schools and clinics. It's the least I can do, he said during a press conference, the flash of cameras capturing his sincerity. Amina, empowered, started a foundation for immigrant single mothers, her struggles fueling advocacy. from poverty to purpose. She reflected, her kindness amplified. The finale culminated in a heartwarming wedding in the mansion's ballroom. Guests from all walks, tech tycoons mingling with Harlem neighbors, the scent of roses and catered feasts mingling. Amina, in a flowing white gown, infused with Senegalese patterns. Alexander beaming, the triplets and Lila as flower children, petals scattering like hopes, vows exchanged. In you, I found home, Amina whispered. In you, I found heart, he replied, as they danced. The lullaby that started it all played softly, a circle complete, hope, love, and humanity prevailed, the family thriving in unity, the unthinkable act birthing a legacy of redemption.